So anyway, well, welcome to the research. Yeah, we're about to embark on what I always think is one of the most significant parts of being an artist, is how do you learn and develop something in your practice. And when you're young, you just take your instrument and it's all real intuitive and you think of the sound and you try to figure it out a little bit. And that goes a long way, but at a certain point you start to use your brain and think about how you're holding your fingers or how you're breathing or imagining things. And then the brain starts to help correct things, right? So there's already a sort of process of research going on. And this is what we're going to work on. We're going to look at how that process works. And you guys are going to create a research question and a topic. And then you're going to work on it in the next coming months. And the goal, I'll jump right to it, is so that you learn how that research process works. Because it's a multifaceted research, which has a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of other things. And so when you put all those facets together, you come to a really great process, which then leads to the best development you can make. So this is I'm kind of giving you like a fifth gear to your car, or giving you an extra possibility to go faster, deeper, better in the direction that you want to go artistically. So this is that's the general goal of what we're doing here and why we're teaching this to you. But we have to work through it all. So there are a lot of different steps. So the coming 6-7 weeks, we are going to meet here every week. And we have these long classes, so we're going to break it up. There's going to be me, you're going to be all kinds of exercises, discussions with your colleagues. We're going to have guest speakers. We have all kinds of things going on to make a entertaining 3 hours, or 2 hours and 45 minutes, or maybe 2.5 hours, so that we can get through this. But the idea is that you get a lot of your research done in this time. So it's not only going to be passive listening, but also active doing and getting things done, right? It's like the Dalton hour, where you get to work on your own work. That was kind of random, but whatever. So, okay. So what is research? So for example, when you're practicing your instrument, are you researching? Okay, I see a yes. Would you like to explain, Ivar? How do you see that as research?
I don't always know what kind of sound is going to come out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So it requires kind of an open mindset, especially when I'm not part of it.
Nice. Open mindset. I like that. Okay.
So there's just researching, okay, if I do a little bit more this, what kind of sound comes out?
If I do this, does what comes out?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the sort of research, right? It's like Edison, right? He wanted to make light bulb, so he got materials and put electricity through it. However he did that, he's like, okay, let's try this, see what happens. Right? So he tested things and he worked his way towards a solution. Nice.
There's kind of two parts, right? Because you also have the practicing, which is just repetitive, trying to get it down.
Yeah.
And not really making advancements on learning how to play it. So that wouldn't be researching.
Okay, let me ask you this. When you're repeating something, practicing, is there a question involved?
Why?
What the hell am I doing? How does everyone else think about that? When you're doing something which you already know the result, in this case, is there still a question involved?
Like, how do I play this better?
How do I play this better?
Maybe how can I get here faster?
How can I what?
More efficient.
Sorry?
Maybe how can I get here more efficient?
How can I get here more efficient? I like that. That's could you? Yeah, thanks. That I relate to that when I practice. I know what the result is, but how can I make it easier? Or how can I keep it easy?
Yeah.
That's
It's a nice sound also, but
what?
like asking yourself, is this a nice sound? Am I playing this with a nice
Is
sound?
this a nice sound?
Or
Yeah. Great. What's your instrument?
drums?
Drums. Nice. Great. Thank you for being the first non-3.0er to speak up. What? I say that to all the rest of you non-3.0ers. Get your hands in the air and join us. Yeah, join us. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry? If you don't know what you're looking for, is it still research?
Because he said, I don't always know what sound I'm going to come up with my drum with.
Right?
And to piggyback on what Stefan said, trying to look for a nice sound. But if you're looking for something which is aesthetically subjective, can you arrive at an absolute conclusion?
If you're looking for something that is aesthetically subjective, are you looking for this is really academic language, so I had to like. So sorry, what was the end part of it?
I mean, the fact that he's looking for a nice sound
Yeah.
means that it tickles his fancy. I mean, from playing with him, I can safely say it tickles mine. But if I don't like it, maybe he likes a certain snare sound.
That's really nice. I mean, who are the singers here? Are there some singers? Are there some singers here? Right? So, like, I mean, we know countless examples of the greatest singers, like Bob Dylan, Louis Armstrong, right? We could name 100 singers who are like the most famous singers in the world, who are singing teachers might say, wow, they really cannot sing. Yeah, so then we get to like, they would say, yeah, but I like to sing like this, right? And we also like that. So boy, what a great question is that. Why does it seem to make you famous when you sing wrong? Or does it make you famous when you sing wrong? I might say yes, but anyway. What else do we have here? Okay, what about jamming? What if you're like meeting with some friends and like just jamming? Is that research?
I think it depends on what kind of purpose you have with it.
Okay.
Because if you're just doing it for fun, you're not trying to make it better. But if you're like trying to make it better and really practicing it, then it gets research, because then you have a goal.
What about trying to have fun?
Yeah, but trying to have fun is not research, because then everyone has research all of his life. And that's,
Oh my God!
that's not
Everybody
the
has
case.
research all of their life. Is that true or false? No, it's really great. I love this because maybe it's true. Maybe everything's research.
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, we're constantly trying to learn, and whether you know it or not, better yourself. So you're always doing some sort of research.
Let's keep it central here, please. Sorry, say it one more time, Ben.
You're always learning.
Always learning, right?
Whether or not you are actively doing it or not, you're
Yeah.
always researching. Yeah.
Right. So even if we're having fun,
Yeah.
we're still learning how to have fun,
Yeah.
or make jokes,
Right.
or enjoy whatever we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, also research can be fun, I hope.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's pain. It's only
Only pain.
no pain, no gain. Okay, what else do we have on this? Listening. Okay, is listening research? So think about the last time. Okay, yeah. What do you say? It includes what?
Whatever is an experiment, let's say.
Experimentation.
Yeah, so listening, gathering, I don't know anything, it's an experiment. So I guess whatever includes the act of doing it can be a research on its own.
Did you say experimentation or experiencing?
Both.
Both. So every experience is a research.
I think it can be.
Yeah.
Not necessarily think about it as a research.
Yeah.
I think to call something research, there has to be a sort of intent and scientific mindset in a way. Because for example, with listening, you can listen to music with just the intent to have some sort of recreation, but you can also have a scientific research mindset when you're listening to music. If you're trying to get to the bottom of a question, if you're trying to listen to a discography of a particular artist for some sort of intent to satisfy your curiosity or to carry out some sort of experiment or whatever. So
Awesome.
all these activities, they might be research or not, depending on your mindset in a way.
You know, you have a sort of chat GPT voice. Did you ever know that? It's very clear and it's very focused and I don't know either, but I mean it as a compliment because I go to ChatGPT all the time. But there's a certain clarity of thought, which really, and the fact that you have a really clear idea about research, I really appreciate. So I take it as a compliment, please.
Yeah.
What? Do you guys use ChatGPT?
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes, yeah. I use it every day, pretty much. Actually, we should talk. We will talk. Actually, we will talk about this in the. What? We will talk about it. No. That's not ChatGPT. Of course, doesn't have. It's not like the old voices from 20 years ago. No, but we will talk about how to use AI in your research because I'm also a researcher. So a lot of what I'm going to share with you is my own experience as a researcher. So I'm working on my PhD, and I'm also trying to finish my dissertation as we speak. So I'm very much dealing with all these issues. So can share that with you. Did you have something to add?
Maybe what Andrew said, covered it in a way that we adjust if we look at these words about topics none of them seem to be connected to research. I think it can be treated as completely different. Maybe even wrong to mix sometimes practicing and research. For example, to me it can be quite harmful in a way. But in some contexts, all these activities can be part of the research.
Yeah. What is your instrument? Guitar. Nice. Yeah. These are questions. I'm not saying that they are research. So we're just using these as a way to think about what is research. Teaching, is that research? Absolutely. At least I feel it like that because how can I, like right now, how am I going to get you guys to understand what research is? I'm researching that. So I made this PowerPoint yesterday and everything. Sorry, yeah.
I was thinking what was saying Andrew and Alexis said, and I was thinking that all of these practices have some sort of research in them, but in their own. Because I was thinking the scientific world, research is one thing, experimenting is completely different. It's basically the next step.
Yeah.
So I was thinking if there's both research and experimenting in all the activities. And
Yeah.
so where does one thing end and where does the next start?
Well, to answer your question, I think it always starts with a question. I think the minute you ask a question, you are researching. Even if you're saying, how can I play this passage which I've played every day for the last 4 years? How can I play it easier? That's a question. And then you're working on your position, you're working on your speed, you're working on your tone color, your intonation, all those things. So you've asked a question, how can I do this? And then you're researching, you're trying it out. So, and then maybe we come to a kind of key element of research, is that it always starts with a question. So whenever you're asking yourself a question in life, or doing anything, that is a research. Yeah.
So in that sense, I don't really get the feeling that these are research, but you need research to do them. Yeah. So they are, like teaching, for example, when you're teaching, you always question yourself, how can I teach this the best way? How can I do this? But the teaching itself maybe isn't really doing research. And there's always research involved, I think, in all these things. Maybe
That's a really interesting perspective. So what you're saying is that research is something you do before the action.
yeah,
So like yesterday I prepared.
but it's not, I don't think it's like practicing is per se research, but you really need to incorporate research to practice good.
Okay. Right, yesterday I researched to prepare this, but right at this moment, am I researching? Or am I just doing?
I mean, you're using research to do.
Yeah.
But you're also reacting to our question, or our statements. So in a sense, you're questioning what you already prepared all
Yep.
the time. I
Yep.
guess, I hope. And so you change your way of teaching because of the people you have in front of you.
That's very true. Just to tell you about my experience right now, I'm sort of living in 3 temporalities. So yesterday I prepared this. I spent hours putting this all together. So that's the history, the past. I'm also in this moment listening to what you're saying and responding, but I'm also thinking about what the next thing is. So I also have the future involved. And that's also helping me choose whether to stick with something or to speed it up or to skip things. And I'm researching at the moment how those 3 temporalities interact. So this was a sort of, I've just given you an insight into my practice, right? Literally this is something I'm thinking about. I've thought about this and I've learned in the moment is to practice my temporal antennas. So I try to look back and I also try to look forward. And this, like if I'm improvising with someone, it's also very much a part. Where do we come from? Where are we now? And where are we going forward? So this is not to explore this topic too deeply, but more to give you guys a demonstration of me talking about how it works for me. Because this is what you guys are going to do in your research. You're going to tell us how it works for you. Okay, Ivar, and then...
Just a small thing. People speak to you. We, for example, cannot hear what people are saying. So could you maybe...
Try to repeat it.
Yes, sometimes you did it, that was very nice, but sometimes I could not
Okay.
understand what the question was.
Okay, yeah. I will try. Carmela.
Yeah, I want to say to Alex, like, I think the word is actually reflection. Like, when you practice, if you film it, and then you look back, or like, when you jam, or when you improvise, or when you're listening, that's actually a reflection act also.
Reflection. So she's talking about reflection. Also
after like indeed what Alex also said about maybe it's not good to combine practicing with research because then your focus lays somewhere else. That the intention, like maybe you can let it go and film it and then do the research after or before.
Okay, so she's talking about the process of research. So maybe when you're trying something out, you're not reflecting in a research perspective. You're just being in that moment, doing what you're doing, but recording it or just remembering it. And then in the future, then thinking back retrospectively and reflecting upon that experience. So, yeah, that's a big part of it, reflection. Yeah?
Isn't that mainly because the whole thing of like the research is what you said, like you ask maybe a question and then you develop that question and then you along the way you find maybe some answers and then you have an answer and then you state another question or you have another product.
Yeah.
So for now, like for teaching, maybe this is your product for your teaching because you already did the research. But after this, you're gonna reflect and you're gonna make a new PowerPoint, right? So maybe the teaching itself doesn't seem as research, but it's part of the whole research process.
Yeah.
Also, I found one.
Let's you guys are gonna you're gonna figure out everything I'm about to teach you today. So I'm gonna, which is also really cool. But I also did plan this, so let's go on.
Let's take advantage of the research.
Yeah. So, talking about music with friends, yeah, is that research? Yes, right? What are the questions we are asking about our art? We kind of already talked about questions. Next week, we're going to really dive into research questions. So I'm going to skip that for now. And because we talked about it, let's look at the types of research, just to understand what we're doing, because we're doing artistic research. So I'm going to talk about that. But before, let's look at scientific research, right? So scientific research includes the scientific method, where you make a hypothesis and then you test it, right? You guys learned about this in middle school. And we're looking for general truths which apply to many people. It's typical, right? You think about like Einstein and the speed of light. However he came to that idea, he made this rule, and apparently it's the same for everybody. So that's it. That would be a universal truth. Or, for example, here are some questions of Newton. How do objects move, and what are the fundamental forces that act upon them? Can the motion of celestial bodies and objects on Earth be described by the same set of laws? Right? So here we have a couple of questions, and he researched them. So, fundamental celestial body, it's like the laws of physics, and we assume that they are the same for everybody, right? So this is kind of scientific research for general knowledge, which is not what we're doing, just to say that. Okay, then we have musicological research. So now we start to go to the arts. And you could say research on the arts, right? So here's some artistic practice, and we can research that. This is what we call musicology, Musikwetenschap. How did the structure and themes of symphonies evolve during the classical and romantic periods? Right? So that's a question. You could look at themes and their structure of a different number of different symphonies, and you could say, well, this happens and this happens and that happens, right? So that would be a research on the arts. Or in what ways has African drumming influenced contemporary Western music genres, right? Awesome question. How did punk music influence youth culture and politics in the late 70s and early 1980s? Who doesn't want to know that? How do minimalist composers like Steve Reich and Philip Glass utilize repetition and phasing to create a sense of musical evolution? Yeah. Or how did Baroque performers approach ornamentation in keyboard music? Right? These are all really typical musicological questions. So you could take recordings, you analyze scores, you could compare them, you interview people, and then you get a bunch of data, you analyze that, you make an interpretation, and boom. But this is all research on the arts. You could also do research for the arts. For example, how to make a music notation program. You might research, okay, you might ask 10 composers what you need in a program, and they give you these list of things, and then you program that. And then you've made a product for the arts. What kind of material for a flute creates the loudest sound? As a flute, I'm a flute player, if you didn't know that. So sometimes we talk about that. People are like, oh, platinum is better than gold, or whatever. And every once in a while, there's some person who makes some scientific study about that. And then we talk about it. How can the acoustic properties of a performance space be optimized for different types of vocal performances, right? So, acoustic properties. You test out a bunch of things, come to some answer. And then you know, that's a research you would do for the arts. But it's also, in some ways, very objective, right? So what we're going to do is artistic research, which is called research in and through the arts. So this is a kind of new form of research, actually, in the last 20 years, that it's really been clarified. And in artistic research, you ask an artistic question, you answer it by making art. So, whatever question you ask, and you're all going to make a question, your answer is going to be a recording, or a score, or a video. That's going to be the answer. You're also going to talk about it, but the essential answer is in the art. Sorry? Yes. Yeah, the art of teaching. Yes, yeah. And so now we come to another truth, that the answer is not universal, but personal, right? Because you're going to make a recording that answers your question, and it's going to be your answer to it. So now we come to a different type of knowledge. Instead of a general law that applies to everyone, we have someone who says, well, for me it works like this. This is how I do it. Could be. No. For me, the speed of light is this speed. And it also happens to be for you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, artistic research, the answer is based on your vision, your ideas, and your artistic practice. Right? So, now we're taking this whole research thing and we're focusing it on your practice. So, actually, this is a really important word, practice. And this is also a really general term that applies to what we're doing, which is practice-based research. So the research is taking place in the doing. It's not in the analyzing outside of yourself. No, you're doing it, creating results, reflecting upon it, analyzing it, talking about what it is. But it's always, all that information I just said right there, is always attached to a recording of the art or live demonstration. It could also be like, this is the way I hold the bow. See? And you see how it enables my articulation? You know, and you say, I hold my arm a little bit like this instead of like this. Those kinds of things are so easy to demonstrate, but so hard to talk about. And you can say, listen to the way the articulation changes. It's either fuda, or taka, right? So then it's like, oh, okay, I get it. And then me, I grab a violin and then I do that. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. So this is how the knowledge is in the practice. And that's demonstrated with recordings or, like I said, live. Okay, so here are some research questions from fourth year students last year. Let's just see what kind of questions they were asking. How can intuitive horizontal composing contribute to the harmonic development of my pieces? Okay, so the first question I would ask is, what the hell is intuitive horizontal composing? Right, so, okay, you have to read the paper, but this is a thing for that person, and the first thing they would do is say what it is, and then they would research it, and then they would also talk about their harmonic development of their pieces and show how they use that. How can music productions shape the staging of my song lyrics? Right? So this is about, yeah, it's a little complicated. So we have different things. We have music productions, shaping, staging, and song lyrics. Maybe this one could be simplified. How can I shape, or how can I stage my song lyrics? Maybe that's the point, right? So this person has some lyrics, and they want to think about staging, right? So we can think of a number of ways to do that. So, right, so then you might have a lyric and you might test a bunch of different options out. Or you might interview someone who makes really great stagings and then create your own answer to that. How can I choreograph a 9-member choir consisting of non-professional dancers for my pop concert? These are the research questions that they asked in their research.
And the whole research was based on these questions?
Exactly. So now we start to understand there's a question involved. And really quickly, we start to see that the practice of the researcher is explicit in the question. The development of my pieces, my song lyrics, how can I choreograph? So the way you frame that question is how we make how we focus the research in our own practice. So it's not like, how can intuitive composing contribute to the development of pieces, right? That would be musicology. Then you might take 10 different pieces and do that. No, it's my pieces. So I've made this, I tried this, and I made this, right? Or music productions and staging of lyrics. Then you might look at Taylor Swift and whoever else, you know? How can choreography exist for a 9-member choir? You would look at other 9-member choirs, wherever they are, right? No, it's how can I choreograph? And what happens is, and this is kind of essential, is when you say, how can I choreograph, then your artistic intentions play a role. You say, well, I really think it's powerful if they're in a circle. So that's an artistic intention. And then you start to explore, how do I do this in a circle? So what you're trying to achieve as an artist becomes woven into this whole process. Yeah, did you have a question?
Yeah.
What's your name, by the way? Dominique?
Yeah.
Okay, just because now I know, Dominique. Dominique!
I was wondering, because in all these questions there are concepts that are quite based in science, right? So if you make up a question that is actually based on things that really are proven or are useful, then it wouldn't count, right?
As a question, it wouldn't count, but we do use scientific research And we do use musicology in our artistic research.
Yeah, that was.
So if you're choreographing 9-member choirs, you might want to study other people who have done that, if that exists. And then you look at how they did it, which is that process, that tool is musicology. But the reason you're doing that is to see how it informs your practice. Ivar.
The question is with how, but the answer is an argument. Shouldn't the question be phrased as what will come out when I experiment with this, and then, for example? Do you get what I mean?
I get what you mean.
It's about the process.
Yeah. Well, you will write a text to answer this question, but accompanying that text will be a demonstration of the answer. So, yeah.
I get it.
So your question doesn't have to point towards the recording at the end, but the recording accompanies the answer in text. Yeah, Gijs.
Yeah, I always learned that when you ask a research question, that it needs to have like a measurable measurable answer.
Yeah.
But it doesn't, for me, it doesn't seem like these questions, or is it?
Well, let's take the word measure and replace it with demonstrate.
Right.
So make a recording which demonstrates your answer.
Right.
That's what we're doing with artistic research. And maybe in some cases you can also measure it, in terms of if it's a quantifiable thing. But it's usually in artistic research, we're dealing more with qualities. We'll talk more about that. Yeah, what's your name? Daniel? Daniel.
What about extraneous, what they would call compounding variables? So in this question, it's quite if A and B, therefore C, or if A, therefore B.
Yeah.
What if you think that music production shapes the staging of your song lyrics, but actually it's something else which shapes the staging of your song lyrics?
Yeah.
And in one case, you don't realize what the other thing is, and in another case, you realize what it is, so that becomes your first A.
Yeah.
What about that?
Well, indeed, I think I agree. I think the musical productions is not what we're really talking about.
I use that as an example.
No. But this is but I'm using that as an example to show how the research question, first of all, is very important, and it's also an organic thing. So when you start out, you write a question. And as you do the research, you realize, oh, actually, I'm not talking about musical productions. And then you make a new version of your question and you throw it out. So again, this is kind of next week's topic, but the research you're doing and your question, they develop along in parallel. And as you carry out more research, you change the question. And and the question is always related. They move together. So it's and usually, the day you turn your final report in of your research, you rewrite your question one last time so that it fits exactly what you did. So that's how you make a sort of watertight document. So just keep that in mind. The research question will start with something, but it'll probably change. Yeah.
Sometimes the point of a hypothesis, that you have a question and then you put a hypothesis and that changes and not the question.
Yeah. Well, that's why we're not doing scientific research.
So we don't make
No. No, we're talking about artistic practice. So you think about what is the language you use to talk about your artistic practice.
But why not just give an answer to the question in the beginning rather than change the entire question in the end? Because now, for example, the second question, how can music production shape the staging of my song lyrics? And then you discover it doesn't, and then the answer is it doesn't in any way.
Right.
And then
Exactly. So that'd be a silly research. So then you realize, okay, I don't want to deal. Yeah.
I don't think that's a silly research. If you find out it doesn't, that's a good research.
Okay. Okay. Comment accepted. It's not a silly research, but let's call it a oppervlakkig, superficial, because it doesn't go into depth of the vision of the artist, right? So, and then we talk about what are the goals of the research, which is usually to like deepen your vision, to develop your practice, to become a better performer, these kind of bigger, larger goals. And if our research question turns out to be a yes or no answer, then usually we change it. We reformulate it so that it makes us go deep into something that's more relevant for our practice.
The answer can be no, and you can go deep anyway.
Well, it can be. That's true. It's true. It can. Your answer. Your question could be, how can I play the first note of this Beethoven sonata? And that's also in one, you might say, a really simple question, but you could also go really deep within that.
Would it be fair to say that the real answer is the questions you asked along the way?
I sense a Bob Dylan song coming up. Okay, let's not go too deeply into the question. Let's explore it a bit, and you guys can brainstorm and let's discover this without going too much into it. I just want to give you an idea, and then this is a process. We're all gonna all go on. So here's another one. How can I achieve a balanced performance of Bach's Violin Concerto in G minor on a minor violin, incorporating elements of historically informed performance while staying true to my own musical taste, right? How does playing without a chin rest and shoulder rest influence my technique, posture, and interpretation in the context of 19th and early 20th century performance practice? Okay. Here's... how do I create an alter ego? So guess what department these questions come from? How do I communicate a story in my performances? How can I use clay to inspire me to create music? That was an awesome research by Yip. How can I use my written texts and poetry to develop my music? How can the principles of ambient music guide me in shaping and refining my personal artistic narrative and vision? That was by Marie, also awesome research. Maybe we might even take a look at that one today. Right? How can I use spatiality and physical distance between performers as a compositional tool in my work? And how can I notate this clearly and effectively? So kind of two questions. Okay, so those are some questions of students last year. So just to kind of review, artistic insights, where the purpose of the research is to gain your artistic insights, which are based on your knowledge, skills, experiences, your vision. There is intuitive knowledge, which are natural things, which you've been doing for many years, and also things you don't translate into words, like how do you pick up a violin bow? I don't know, it would be practically impossible to describe how that works. And then taking the implicit knowledge and making it explicit. So when you're talking about the things that you do in your artistic practice, you're going to use texts, recordings, drawings, annotated scores, videos, podcasts, whatever. However you can get across what it is that you do. Those are the things we're working. So we're trying to understand your vision, your knowledge, and perspective. That's the main focus. So now you understand this thing about like universal research, the laws of physics, or musicological research. How did they do that? No, it's how do I do it? And this is why it's so cool and so interesting, the artistic research, is now we have a source of knowledge which is located in the individual. So you have something which I can learn from, and you also have something which I can learn from. And the whole process of the research is for you to understand what that is, develop it, and then share it. Okay. So let me stop talking for a few minutes, and let's take 10 minutes to write. Does everyone have like something to write with? And then just do free writing. What have you been thinking so far about the role of research in your artistic practice? Maybe some of the questions you've been working on till now. What are some of the new questions? How do they relate to your practice? So you can write this for yourself, but when we're done, we're going to put you guys into groups, and then you're going to discuss it with each other. Okay? Okay. Because sometimes we say, oh, you have to do research, but actually there are different definitions of research, and you will recognize them right away. You know, learning research is like, I'm going to go to the library and do some research. I'm going to look some things up. I'm going to learn it. I'm going to Google some things and learn. Right? And this, we also call this desk research or data collection. So you're going to read books, articles, websites. You're going to watch recordings, videos, interviews. This is all learning. And believe me, when you came to this school, you came here to learn. You're like, well, I can do all this, but I want to learn more. And you have a bunch of really great teachers here who have a lot to teach you. But this is only one part of research. The other part of research is what I call developing research or the testing research, right? I'm going to go to the laboratory and I'm going to do some research. And that means you're going to test out a bunch of things, right? So, like I'm going to test if this works, I'm going to try this out, so we're always also testing things. And then there's this research cycle, where you're creating, testing, getting results and reflecting upon it, and then making a new one. So I'm going to talk more about that later on, the research cycle. But this is also the way your whole research is going to be a cycle. Because you're going to have a starting point with a question and a recording, then you're going to do all this research, and then you're going to take decisions, and you're going to make a new recording, and then you get feedback on that, and then that would then start the circle again. So what we see is that research goes in cycles, in circles, and it has a starting, a middle, and an ending. And the end, just like we say, every answer leads to new questions. Right? So this is classic here. So these are the two types of research, the learning research and then the testing research. In your artistic research, which you're doing, it's going to have both of them. So you're going to do musicology, you're going to look things up, you're going to watch videos, you're going to analyze, you're going to ask other people's opinions. That's going to be learning. On all of that information, you're going to reflect. How does that change your viewpoint on your question? And then you're also going to be developing things. So you're going to be playing, you're going to be making exercises, you're going to be practicing, you're going to be performing, all these things. You're going to be testing a bunch of things out, like you're doing all the time. And those are also going to produce results, which you're going to reflect upon. So keep that in mind, these two types of research. So what that means is do not choose a research topic that is only something you want to learn. Something you don't know anything about. Because that's just learning. Or like your main subject lessons, for those of you who have main subjects or your coaching, that's also not research. That's just, your main subject thing. Learning your Brahms sonata, your teacher told you to learn it, so you practice it, you play it, they tell you this, they tell you that, blah, blah, blah. That's what we call, main subject learning. And that's also not our research. The artistic research is, like I said in the beginning, it's about your ideas. It's not about your teacher's ideas. It's about what you have to say. So you want to choose something that you want to develop. It's rooted in your own vision. So, here's a couple of general things about artistic research. Research is methodically answering a question, right? So we have a question, and we have a series of methods. It's a reflective activity driven by your own thoughts, perspectives, and opinions. By the way, I will send you this PowerPoint, so I'll just email it to you all. So reflection is really important. Thoughts, perspectives, opinions. I listened to it. I don't like it. I thought it was too fast, or blah blah. You want to be exercising your impressions, your thoughts, honest thoughts. So it is research when it's documented, when it produces knowledge and understanding, when it is disseminated to the outside world, so when you're sharing it to others, which you guys will do, and when previous research is used. So, indeed, with all of your topics, Google or go to Google Scholar and look up your question and see who's written about it or who's written about something that's related to it. And then you're going to read that and you're going to talk about it in your research. Like, I don't know, there was a study of dancers in the menstrual cycle, and they found that the rehearsal structure went like this. So you could talk about that, and then you say, but while you're, as a violinist, it's a slightly different situation, blah, 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 right? So this is a typical thing about where you might want to look up some information. And there's so much information out there, as you all know. So, and the thing I always like to say is artistic research is that process that turns craftsmen into artists. So this is what happens when you become an expert in your topic, in your question. You say, well, this is the way you use vibrato. And actually there are 4 different vibratos that you can use to play this Prokofiev sonata. And the thing that works really well at the climax is to do it like this. And you hold your finger like this and not like that, right? That's just kind of expert information, which only comes out of researching it. Sometimes the results of our artistic research is literally like a small little detail. I hold my finger like this instead of that, and you spent months figuring that out. But it's resting on a mountain of researching and testing and learning and thinking and deciding. And when you do it in a way that's focused in your own vision, you become an artist. So you become an expert and an artist. You say, well, I'm really good at theatrical gestures in the way I play. And people say, oh yeah, whenever he plays, he's really good with his facial expressions. It works so well with the way he performs. And that's not just out of the blue, something you got, I don't know, you really worked on it and you figured out how you want to use it and you developed a method for it. And boom, that becomes a thing. So this is what we want from all of you, is to become a specialist and an artist in that topic. So in the thing that's implied in this is that you want to choose a topic where actually you have a vision about it. So in a way, you want to take something you're already kind of good at, but maybe don't quite understand, and then figure it out and go deep into it. So we're not going to do this because we're going to stop now, but so just a little bit the overview of this class. We have 7 group classes of 3 hours, maybe 2.5 hours. You're going to create a proposal. The deadline is on the 4th of November. Let me just go through this and then I'll hear your question. We're going to talk more about that. You're going to carry out the research with supervision, your own supervision. You're going to make a final report, which will be due on the 17th of March at 4 in the afternoon. And then you'll present the report within your supervisor group. Okay. Oops. Sorry. There we go. Like I said, I think I have all your email addresses, so I'll send it to you. Okay. Any questions, comments, complaints? Yeah, complaints.
You said about don't pick something that you just want to learn. So was that related to what you said like just 5 minutes ago about picking something that you already know but like how to do?
Yeah.
I mean, you can better pick something that is a bit familiar with you and develop that further than picking something that you are fascinated by but it's really new for you.
Well, it's a sort of vague suggestion. Like, for example, last year there was a classical singer who had a really good chest voice. But in operatic singing, you don't use the chest voice very much. So, but she said, you know what, how can I incorporate chest voice singing into operatic roles? That was her research. So she had she had something that she could do, but she didn't quite understand it, and she didn't know how to put it into practice, so she put her research around that.
Do you think that is better than doing something that is really like a new world?
I do. But just because you also should have a vision of where you want to end up. And if it's just learning something new, which you have no idea about, then it's harder to have that vision, I think. But we can talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I was just...
Yeah. So, but believe me, just number one, you guys really have to want to do this research. So pick something that you're really passionately interested in. Because if it's I got to do this thing, you're going to hate it. So make it directly in the center of what you're working on every day, and we find a way to turn that into a research question so that you can do a methodology, and then it'll help with your final exam, it'll help with, you'll get better, everything. So make it really relevant in the center of what you're working on. Okay, any other questions? Okay. See you guys. Basically, think about this week. Talk to your teacher, talk to your friends, talk with each other. And next week we will go into the question, and I want to hear more from your ideas. So I'll send you this PowerPoint. I'll see you next week at 10:30. Yeah? Okay.
Thank you, Dad.
Yes, thank you guys.